iPhone 15 Pro Max versus iPhone 15 Pro, which to choose? Now, in this episode, we're going to take a look at just that question here. This is the smaller blue titanium version. This is the larger natural titanium version. I've had both since launch day, and I want to help you make this decision here if this is boggling your mind which one to get. The price here for the smaller Pro, first of all, I just want to get into that, is to me a lesser value. And the reason for that is because they're giving you a camera that doesn't go further than before. So 15 times zoom, 3x, just like the 14 Pro and just like the 13 Pro. And it just has a smaller battery. So while it's a really good phone, I just think they should have threw the 5x on here. So for me, right out the gate, I do think the value for this phone is a little bit less. But then there's an issue I have with the larger one, and that is that, you technically have to pay more than last year because there's no 1099 option. So, but you do get the 5 times zoom and stuff like that. So if you really want to, and you get the bigger battery. So if you really want the true, I think, the most pro phone this year, I think that's the Max, honestly. And it mostly comes down to the camera, because I think what qualifies these phones really as pro phones is having those extra camera features, and this is the main one that gets it this year, the 15 Pro Max. And while the 15 Pro does get most of it, I never like how the 15 Pro, I don't like when they put a camera that's lesser in the smaller model. I just think they should equal both these models, since they're both like really high priced point iPhones. So let's talk about the builds now. Titanium is way cleaner than the stainless steel of the past. I understand, stainless steel has heft to it, maybe more premium feeling to some people. But for me, I prefer the titanium. And with the overheating update they just did, 17.0.3, there is no real heat issues that I've been having with these phones. Now, if you look closely, you're going to see that the natural titanium definitely shows fingerprints less than the blue titanium or the darker color. So if you're getting the black titanium or the blue, you'll be seeing this. Now, Apple, I think I seen something about Apple said that these do exhibit fingerprints, and just to wipe them off and you'll clean it off, and there you go. It's true. You might see a couple of fingerprints on the finish, wipe it off, and it'll be gone. However, any of the titanium models still are much cleaner to me than the smudgy, oily look of the stainless steel edges of the past, although the stainless steel edges to me in some ways still feel more premium than a titanium, even if titanium is mentioned to be a stronger metal. Now, when it comes to design and weight, I'm going with the Pro all day. I like light phones, and I got to tell you that the iPhone 15 Pro is much lighter than the iPhone 15 Pro Max. This phone is under 190 grams, and it just feels like incredibly nice to hold, super comfortable. And again, if you don't need the 5 times zoom, I would totally pick this one for the comfort factor. It's super fast, super bright display, really comfy to hold. It's got really good cameras, obviously, with its new crop feature right here. It still has most of what the 15 Pro Max has in a much more comfy size. However, if you're a big phone user and you wanted something more comfy and light than before, you'll love the 15 Pro Max, because this one is substantially more comfortable on the day-to-day, I think, than the 14 Pro Max or 13 Pro Max. It reminds me more of like the 12 Pro Max or the 11 Pro Max. Those phones were a lot lighter, and this one is closer to those in the weight. But they have a good balance. They strike a good balance between weight and size here. Plus, if you really like consuming media, of course, you'll want the larger phone here. In terms of design, they're about the same though overall. The thinner bezels seem a little bit more nice on the, I would say on the 15 Pro Max, just because there's more screen. So it just seems, I don't know if it's an illusion or something, it just seems like they come closer or they come out further, like it's just a wider screen. But you still have thinner bezels here on this phone. And these bezels are really a nice upgrade for Apple, but it's pretty close to like the bezels that you'll see on like a Galaxy S23 or an S23 Plus, which is a good thing, because I've been talking about how thin those bezels are in my reviews of those phones. So really nice. Okay, so which one to choose in display? Well, it clearly is bigger or smaller, and here's the thing, they both have the same brightness. They both actually have the same pixels per inch. Apple tweaked the pixels per inch, so every single 15 has essentially 460 ppi, so it doesn't matter which one you go with, they all have a similar sharpness level. I would pick the iPhone 15 Pro Max simply if you're going to be watching a lot of video, for sure. If you don't like typing on smaller screens and you are using your phone heavier, the consumption of media and creation on here is better. However, I would pick this phone if you're more of a person who, does use a lot of public transit. Your hands are smaller, obviously. You bike a lot. You want to throw this thing on a bike holder. You do things like where you need a lot of portability in your life. You're on the move a lot, and you don't need a phone that's kind of like a little cumbersome in the size. Any Max is still that, even if it's lighter, it's something to hold. So it's basically down to, consumption of media and, using a bigger screen versus, portability. I prefer this, because I have bigger hands and, for me, it's not a big deal. I got used to it, but for people who want ultimate portability and still want that premium iPhone factor, pick this iPhone 15 Pro. You're going to be very happy with this. Let's move on to the other area display, and that is the dynamic island. So the dynamic island tends to get in the way just a little bit when you pinch to zoom, and it's still in your face quite a bit no matter what you're doing, especially if you zoom. And when you're watching a video or something like that, you can definitely see it. However, I do think that on the Max, because you have more screen space, that you don't really pay attention to it as much. Let me go ahead and pop a photo here. So on the iPhone 15 Pro here, you can kind of see it a little more obviously because there's not more screen space, if you get what I'm saying. So look at this one. Look at the 15 Pro Max. There's more screen space to try to avoid looking at it. But if it doesn't bother you and you really like that look of Dynamic Island, I think it doesn't matter which one you go with. You'll be enjoying the feature set that comes with it, like the ability to see when your Uber ride's coming, when your Uber Eats is coming, when you're setting timers, when you're getting calls up in there, when you're seeing AirDrop. They have the new little thing and where you can see the flashlight up there on both of these if you have the flashlight on. So they're taking advantage of the Dynamic Island with software quite a bit. So performance and heat. Well, it's weird, but I have to say I've been feeling a little more heat on my 15 Pro Max, and you wouldn't think that because it's a bigger phone. But I've been feeling a little bit less heat on the smaller boy for some reason this year. But neither of them for me have been, as the media likes to make it out to be, and there's some people in the comments who bought these phones initially. They were setting them up and they got warm under initial setup. They didn't give the phone a chance. They've already returned it and got a different phone, and they're going to get in the comments and talk about how it's an overheating disaster. But the fact of the matter is I'm not getting overheating on the 15 Pro Max, and after the update, it's even cooler to the touch. Some people are going to talk about how they're going to downclock the CPU. There's already articles out there of people who've tested the performance post update, and it's really not changed. As a matter of fact, I got a higher score in 3D Mark post update than I did prior to the update. So it seems like it's performing a little bit better for me, if anything. So for me, the heating thing and thermals is not really an issue, especially the way I think most people use a phone. They're not really going to notice anything like that. So really decent, especially after you get the phone set up. During setup, most phones will get warm because they're indexing, they're downloading all your stuff, they're downloading data from iCloud, and then you think it's a phone issue when really it's because you're really pushing it hard in them initial days. So which to choose in terms of the software experience? Now, for me, I like the 15 Pro here. And the reason why is because I feel like iOS has always been designed to work better on a smaller screen. They don't really do anything to push the larger screen factor. I really dislike this about the Max. I've been disliking this for years. And it's really down to one feature. Pixel does it. Samsung does it. It's split screen multitasking. We don't have that. on this phone. And having a phone this large, getting thinner bezels, and we still do not have a split screen multitasking. I understand some people don't give a rat's, over that. But for me, I gotta say, I really want a split screen here. I just think there's got to be some feature to separate a big phone from a small phone. And even if you don't separate it, you could even put it on this phone. I mean, the Galaxy S23 is the same size as the 15 Pro, and I can do all kinds of multitasking. And you got to go in a single app, and then you got to go out and then come back in. And then when you're trying to go, you got to go back to the app, grab the thing, come back to the app. Can we get a split screen Apple, please? Other than that, cameras, they have the same new settings in the cameras where you can tweak between the 24 megapixel, where you can go to they have that new feature where you can set the crop like on that 1x zoom. So let's go down to camera here. And we'll go over here to formats. You'll see you can capture in the modes 24 and 12. And then you can go to the Pro default and you could set that up to 48 megapixels. We'll head up out of here and we'll go into the cameras themselves. Let's go into the cameras. And you'll see essentially the same type of software, except this one has 3 times. This one has 5 times zoom. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of pro stuff going on there with the camera and software. But other than that, these operate just like the regular iPhone 15s. Simple, clean software that gets updated regularly. And the experience is going to be just larger, really. That's about it. Both have widget support. Both have app libraries. Both have software updates for years. So discussing the cameras, I'll show you a couple images here in a minute. But I got to say that, it's the same as last year in terms of, the bigger phone is better for a viewfinder. The smaller phone is better for portability. But the difference, again, is the zoom, like 5 times. And you could still go 3 times just like that iPhone 15 Pro over there. But the digital zoom is where you really surpass the iPhone 15 Pro, which goes 25 versus 15. That's 10x more. That is a huge jump over the smaller phone. Video is going to be about the same, and quality results are going to be about the same, with the front-facing cameras being pretty close as well, basically identical. And so it really just comes down to that 5 times. Like if you want that 5 times zoom, that is it. That is the main thing. If you don't need it, then you're not going to care. Take a look at some of my results here on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and let me know your thoughts. These results are basically the same on both phones. And so when it comes to the audio performance, I'm not actually going to play a song right now. I can tell you, in my experience, the iPhone 15 Pro Max is louder by a few decibels over the iPhone 15 Pro. It has one less speaker hole, as you can see right there. It's just a louder phone. So if you want louder, pick the iPhone 15 Pro Max. It's going to give you better audio. Especially if you're not the type of person who really likes using headphones, you like hearing it come directly out the phone, I would pick the 15 Pro Max every day of the week. Okay, so battery life. I'm going to tell you the truth about my experience with these. I have noticed almost zero difference between battery life with these versus last year's iPhones. And that is to say that they make it a day, they're good battery life, but they're not like mind-blowingly good. They'll make it the full day, which is important. For this price point, you have a phone, you don't got to worry about charging in the middle of the day on both of these. The Max, though, I finished my days with around 40 40 to 50. If I'm really using it heavy, in the 30s, like low 30s. But if I'm not using it heavy, about 40 to 50. Now, with the iPhone 13 Pro Max a couple years ago, I was finishing the day with like 50 to 60. So still not better than the 13 Pro Max, but definitely it's good enough for the full day. This phone, on the other hand, heavy using is really low. It's like 10 to 20 by the end of the day, sometimes under 10. I'm in the red for sure. So the Max can probably get you through the next morning, whereas the iPhone 15 Pro is an every nighter when it comes to charging. Other than that, though, they got the charging optimization, the clean energy charging, the low power modes. We didn't even discuss that. Those will definitely take them further. But then you're using an iPhone 15 regular with the 60 hertz because it knocks off the ProMotion panel on this phone. So yeah, battery life, the Max is a runaway victory though, hands down. It gets like 20 to 30% better battery life day to day. So if you need the bigger battery, the longer life, you want to go into the next morning without having to charge right away, you'll probably really like the Max more. But if you charge your phone every night anyway, I think the Pro will be fine for you as well. Gaming, I find that the iPhone 15 Pro Max is the winner. And the reason why is because what I want to tell you is that the Max is going to be a better experience because the screen is larger. You have more space to enjoy the game. And while ProMotion, you have better battery life so you can game longer. It's always going to be the larger phone usually, especially if they have equal specs. Like you can get a cheap large phone and that's not going to be better than the smaller Pro. Don't get me wrong. But, this is more of like a little portable gaming machine here. And they can run graphically intensive games for sure. But I'm going to say it straight up. Like the Max has more room to spread the heat and, the Pro doesn't. So you might get a little more heat under heavier gaming on this phone. They're both going to warm up under that usage though. Keep that in mind. But the Max all day for the longer battery life, bigger screen area for enjoying them games. I'm picking the Max every day. But where this iPhone 15 Pro is going to be your pick is if you're like to one-hand use. Now, I think that the Mini is still the king of one-handed use. This phone is still kind of large for some people. So you don't have a big hand. Like if your hand is medium-sized to small, the iPhone 15 Pro is going to feel like a large phone to you. Whereas the 15 Pro Max is going to literally feel like a Max phone to you. But all in all, the more comfy one-handed phone is of course going to be the 15 Pro. So it's pretty much spot on with a good weight, pretty good size. And I think it's better than the Max for most people if you're just, regular everyday user and you just want the higher end model. But if you really want even lighter and even more easy to use, or not necessarily easy to use, but even more comfy, pick the regular 15. That's cheaper, lighter, and pretty similar experience if you don't need promo. Phone call quality and connectivity has been spot on with both of these. I've had no issues. The Max has been having pretty good bar strength. I will say, though, that I have had a couple of bugs, with like the apps, some of the basic apps crashing. Like the phone app crashed at one time. The camera restarted the whole phone. So these phones still have a little bit of bugs. They're not perfect just yet. So if you're still waiting for your iPhone until November or something, or late October, there'll probably be an update where it'll perform even better by the time you get it. But early users like me and some of the people you're going to see in the comments, they'll definitely experience some of those early adopter bugs. Let's wrap it up here. It's not just a bigger or smaller iPhone this year. Well, technically it is. Who are you kidding, Nick, bro? Like, yes, it is. It's the bigger phone or the smaller phone. Okay, I get it. Okay. What I'm trying to say is it's more that the Max, it literally has the Max zoom. So if you're looking for the Max zoom, that's going to be the phone for you. But other than that, it's the same phone. I'd pick the Pro if you're a heavy, iPhone user, but uses your phone for just daily tasks. You needed something of an upgrade and you don't need a monster zoom, but you have an older iPhone that doesn't even have 3 times zoom or doesn't have 15 times zoom. You'll really love this phone. I'd pick the Max if you're more into gaming, video creation, photography, seriously. Like I would pick this phone over the smaller Pro, but you could still be seriously into photography and pick the Pro if you're just doing photography. But for videography, you'll have more zoom on this phone and photography. So this is a pick here. And of course, the longest iPhone battery, you're going to want the Max here. And so for more media consumption as well. So for me, I think the Max is better value just because they cut out the 5 times zoom on the smaller phone. But other than that, you can't go wrong with either. Again, these are two really good lightweight premium iPhones. Once again, USB-C, I didn't really mention much because we already know that's there. It charges about the same on both. And it's pretty great because it matches up with MacBooks and stuff like that and all those other Apple products like iPads and stuff. So it's going to be an adoption for some people, but it'll be great. So either way you go, you're not going to lose. But I hope this video helped you decide, based on a lot of the contents we were discussing, which phone will fit into your life better. If you found this video helpful, entertaining, informing, click the like button for me. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here, and I'll catch you all in the very next episode. Have a great Sunday, and peace.